Hi, my name is Sitaram Das, and I'm going to be the host for the night. I'm actually a member of Kripa, who will be up next, and I'm actually the only member that can't be with them. So I am beyond thrilled that Love Serve Remember is allowing me to be the host for tonight so that I can feel like I'm a part of it. And of course, after Kripa, we will have the incredible Nina Rao and friends, and I'll give her an introduction later. But before all that, I just want to make a couple quick announcements. This is being simulcast on multiple channels, so you can view it on ramdas.org/music. You can also see it on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. We also really encourage you to listen with the highest quality speakers or headphones that you have available. All of the artists involved tonight put a lot of effort to create the best sound that they could, and so the best technology you use means you'll get the best listening experience. Tonight's event is being recorded and it will be available for rewatch on all platforms. The last thing I want to say is that we have a little support and giveaway happening. So if you have the means and you would like to support tonight's offering, please consider leaving a donation to the Love Serve Remember Foundation or purchasing a piece of Soul Land merchandise. You can find all that at ramdas.org/music shop. And if you do that, or if you comment even, you will be automatically entered into a giveaway raffle to win one of many prizes, including the new limited edition 50th anniversary Be Here Now box sets. So with that said, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my dear friends and brothers in Kripa. So Kripa is a Kirtan and service collective that's made up of Ram Dass caregivers and inspired by his central teachings of love, service, remembrance, and truth. Kripa specifically works to lower the barriers of access to contemplative and devotional practices such as Kirtan, which is what you're going to experience tonight. We do this through affordable, free, and donation-based offerings. We do this through spiritual support. So if anyone watching has any questions or you feel inspired and you just want to reach out, if you have any issues in your life and you're looking to tackle them from a spiritual perspective, this is one of our Seva offerings. We offer video chat, one-on-one support, as well as phone support and email support for anyone who reaches out. And then we also do a lot of Seva to the prison system. Obviously, with COVID, we can't be going into prisons right now. In fact, people who are incarcerated are actually some of the most vulnerable people on the planet right now for COVID. But we have kind of shifted gears and we've been doing a lot of letter writing as a way to build new connections and also to keep the connections alive that we have. So those are some of the things that we are involved in. And if you want to find out more about Kripa, you can go to kripa.guru and you can find out more there. You can also listen to some of our music there. The other things that I want to mention is that, so what you're about to watch, that this was filmed at Hanuman Maui, which is the loving awareness sanctuary that has grown out of Ram Dass's home. And it's a beautiful and a powerful place, and it has a power and it has a certain bhav, a certain presence of loving awareness that you just touch when you go there. And it's why a lot of the satsang around Ram Dass decided that they wanted to preserve his home as a loving awareness sanctuary. And so Kripa is live streaming from the living room at Hanuman Maui. And I want to mention that we just announced today that the deluxe edition of a Bhakti Mala for Ram Dass will be available everywhere on this coming Tuesday. And this is a 15-song Hanuman Chalisa album dedicated to Ram Dass, and it serves as a fundraiser for Hanuman Maui. And it has tracks from people like Krishna and Nina Rao, who will be on next after Kripa, has tracks from Kripa, and then this deluxe edition also has new tracks from people like Jai Uttal and Gita Ma and Govindas from Bhakti Yogashala, as well as many others. If you want to learn more about that, you can go to hanumanmaui.org. You can check out the stuff that they are doing there. The last thing I want to say is just that I have a new book that's out, and all the proceeds to that book are actually going to support both Kripa's service outreach work and Hanuman Maui. I'm not taking a penny from the book. These are two causes that are just really near and dear to my heart. And so you can, of course, purchase the book at both Hanuman Maui and kripa.guru. You can also go to fromandforgod.com, and you can learn more about the book there, and you can order it anywhere that books are sold online. So, with all that said, I am beyond thrilled and honored to be able to introduce you to my brothers at Kripa.
Amen. Chidakasha Makasha
What up, guys?
Hi,
Sitaram.
Hey.
Ram.
It's good to see you all and to be together.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Wishing us here, but glad to have you virtual.
Yeah. I was thinking about how we've actually been doing this, having group video chats at least once every 2 weeks, usually a lot more often, but at least once every 2 weeks for, I think, the entire duration of the pandemic.
Yeah, we are well practiced at this point.
Yeah, we meet more online than we ever have in person.
Zoom wrong.
I just thought we'd start off. I mean, I see now you're in a different location, but where that was filmed was in the living room at Hanuman Maui at Ram Dass's home. And I did introduce that a little bit, but I thought I'd just start first with you, Pavan, because you are on the board of Hanuman Maui. I don't know if you ever knew when you started getting into singing Kirtan that you would be on the board of some organization someday.
Yeah, I thought I was going the opposite direction, but here we are.
But I just thought I'd start with you just to talk about kind of the things that Hanuman Maui has going on and also, why it's personally meaningful for you.
Thanks, Sitaram. First, I want to speak for all of us and say thank you to Love Serve Member Foundation, to Mangala and to JR and everybody who works to organize this, and just everybody on the team that continues to share RD's teachings. You know, it's a huge service. So thank you to you all, and thanks for having us on. And Sitaram, Hanuman Maui, it's near and dear to all of us. To reiterate some of what you said earlier, it's the space that served as Ram Dass's home for the last 15 years of his life. And during those 15 years, he continued to deepen his practice and develop loving awareness and these other spiritual teachings that he shared with everyone. And in that time, there was a reciprocal relationship between his practice and the land and the space around him. So over those 15 years, he imbued that house with his presence and with that love. And so when he left his body a year ago, there was no question in our minds that we were to maintain it, to share it as a spiritual sanctuary. So that's exactly what we're doing, thanks to some tireless efforts from Dasima and Stever and Superly and countless Sevaks and benefactors. So thanks to all this effort, we're able to maintain the house and maintain it as a place of practice, as a spiritual sanctuary. And it's our hope that when travel opens up again, that we'll be able to share this space with aspirants on the path who wish to come and deepen their relationship to service and to loving awareness. And this place really exists as the heart legacy of Ram Dass, a place to have the experience of loving awareness and his presence. So we're really excited to share. And I could go on for ages about them, but you can just check out hanumanmaui.org for more information. And be sure to sign up for the newsletter, because we have so many exciting announcements coming out this month and news to come. We're really excited to share with you all.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it makes me think about, Krishna Prem, you were telling me about your time there as being really heart-opening. And when you were singing that Hanuman Chalisa in the video, I mean, I really felt that. And it just made me think about, especially since I brought up this Hanuman Chalisa album that we're doing for Ram Dass, and it just made me think about that intimate relationship that Ram Dass had with the Chalisa. And so since you did sing that song, Krishna Prem, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and why it's meaningful to you, and also, how that's kind of tied into Ram Dass for you.
Being at the house first and hearing Kirtan, I actually didn't feel drawn to it or didn't quite understand it, and felt like I was a good meditator or something like that. One day, I was pretty young when I got to RD's house. I was like 19. And one day, little naive me said, "Hey, Ram Dass, will you be my bhakti yoga teacher?" And he said, come on. And he rolled me into a little garden where there's a statue of Hanumanji. And he pointed to it and he said, "There's your first lesson." And he didn't give a second one, so learning about one and what Hanuman is and what that means for me. I think that's one of the reasons. And Sitaram, it was actually you that I heard sing Hanuman Chalisa for the first time. But it's one of those things that's like describing the smell of a rose. Like I could talk about it forever, but really it was trying it, and it was feeling that Ram Dass liked it. You know, when I sing, I go into the place in myself where I'm just singing with him and just being with him. You know, he loved me so much, and so that was a way in for me to be in that love with him.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And, you know, it makes me think about, you know, when Ram Dass's body laid out for those 3 days in the house after he had left his body, just how many times the Hanuman Chalisa was sung, and all of us, all four of us, as well as other people, you know, as we carried Ram Dass's body out of that house, it was sung, and it definitely has a certain power. And that actually, this ties in well to one of the questions that was asked, and I'll leave this open to any of you that wants to answer. But Sarah asks, is it necessary to know the translation of the Sanskrit, or in the case of the Chalisa, the Avadi, in the Kirtan, or is it simply the practice that matters? Anyone who might feel...
In my humblest of humble opinions, I think it's both, probably. You know, I think there's the devotion that you bring to the practice, and then as that devotion deepens, you probably are naturally led to further exploring, you know, not only what does that chant mean, but also the pronunciation, so that you're even more in a vibrational relationship with the mantras that you're singing. So I think it's a natural occurrence, you know, one that can be done all at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. It makes me think about just this sense that this practice, right? It's really just about love, and it's about opening the heart, and that love leads the way, and it does eventually lead to wanting to learn what do these words mean. And but I think for all of us, for me, it started with that spark. I had just heard this chant, and I just had to start singing it, and yeah, that sense of kind of leading with the heart and leading with love. And that makes me also think, Bhavin, we were kind of talking about that last chant that you did, and I think that sense of leading with the heart, it kind of ties into part of the reason why that chant's meaningful to you, and I'm just curious if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. The chant I offered was the Sri Rudrashtakam, which is 8 verses to Shiva. And there's one line in here that I wanted to share. And it's, I take refuge in Bhavani's spouse, the Supreme Lord, who is fierce, exalted, intrepid, indivisible, unborn, radiant as billions of suns, who roots out all afflictions of mundane existence and is accessible only through love. And it's that last part that really does it for me. I've always been very attracted to traditions like the non-dual traditions, like Shaivism, to Buddhism, to all these practices that are aimed at pure and unconditioned consciousness. And so coming to RD, he offered an evolution of those teachings, where not only is our truest nature that of awareness, but it's that of loving awareness. And that these spaces are accessible only through love.
Yeah.
And, you know, following his lead, you know, in the same way that sunlight is warm, our awareness is loving. And that doesn't have to be something esoteric. That could be something very accessible, like practicing mindfulness or breathing in. I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Breathing in, I love breathing in. Breathing out, I love breathing out. And so, following Ram Dass's lead, we can begin to infuse love into all of these practices on our path.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me think about, in the Narada Bhakti Sutras, right, it talks about how love is not only that non-dual state, it's not only the final liberation, but it's also the path. And that just seems to be this running theme that we're talking about, that opening the heart is just naturally fulfilling, and we do it just because, and love gets awakened through love. I think that's beautiful. And we have a couple other good questions coming in, but before we get to those, I did how do you want to ask you real quick, because I'm aware of the fact that today is Good Friday, and one of Ram Dass's teachings is that he honored all paths, and I just think it's kind of miraculous that, because that kirtan you guys did was pre-recorded, that your chant involves kind of Christian prayer, and so I just was curious if you wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I wish I had thought of the fact that it was Good Friday, but it makes it a lot more fun that I didn't put everything together. Particularly because the rendition of what I did this evening, I created on Good Friday, like 3 years ago, as I was leading a kirtan at my parents' church. And, going back to accessibility and our mission, I'm always looking for ways for everybody to realize, that they have a home here and in that kind of space, and was looking at a way that I could really make sure to honor, the tradition and the space that evening, and thinking about, Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, and then the Easter to come, and the mother that bared all of that, and the witnessing, of pure radiant innocence coming into the world, going out and being a light to awaken the hearts of others, and then to also, feel and bear and behold, what was thought to be that light being extinguished. For me, those two traditions, Maharaji and Ram Dass, constantly pointed to the reinforcement of other traditions, and going back to Sabek. And, when we look at the reattunement to love, we can recognize that divine quality of the mother in all traditions, and, in our life, by just looking for that loving compassion that, is holding, nurturing, and fierce, at the same time.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm going to direct this question to KP first, just because you've talked the least so far, but I imagine other people might want to jump in after. This is a question that came in from someone listening, and they wanted to know what are some of Kripa's best or most memorable moments with Ram Dass. So I'll start that with you, Krishna Prem. Is there a particular, you told that beautiful story earlier, but is there any other particular memories that pop in your mind right now that you feel like sharing?
Yeah, I feel like first meeting Ram Dass was super significant for me. I was very young, 17 or 18 at the time. And, I had the privilege and the ability to just go off in search of, and was reading Be Here Now. And I didn't know this story. I didn't know who Ram Dass was, or I didn't know about Maharaji. And a friend of mine, my teacher, one of my mentors, he saw me reading that and he said, "Oh, you like that book?" And I said, "Yeah, this is really cool. There's a page in here that talks about love as a place, as a state of being beyond just an emotion." And I had never heard anybody talk about that. So he said, "Well, he lives 15 minutes down the road. Would you like to go and meet him?" And I said, "Yeah, you mean one person did this? Let's go." So I go in the living room, and Ram Dass is sitting in his wheelchair, and he kind of turns and looks at me and smiles, says, "Hi." And at that moment, I could see it shining out of him. I could feel it in the air. It was a bizarre experience, but I think people watching understand how that feels when you get around somebody who's just operating in a different way, or maybe have a more peaceful vibe or whatever it is. But I could feel it coming out of him, that what I was looking for, the love and the consciousness that I was seeking, was real. And it was in this funny old man in a wheelchair smiling at me. And actually, in that first instant, I thought it was so hilarious because it was like, I've been looking for you. I didn't know I was looking for someone, and here you are, and here this is, and it was hilarious. So we laughed together for a few minutes, you know. So meeting him, there's a phrase that comes from poetry talking about, I believe it's Rumi or Hafiz, talks about a moment with the beloved and the river changes its course, and that's for sure what happened. You know, from there. Also with the Hanuman Chalisa, it's like taking care of him showed me that there was joy in the act of giving care and giving love and awareness of the same place. You know, and Hanuman, the perfect embodiment of selfless service and devotion, I wanted to know a little bit about that. Ram Dass really seemed to live in that, you know, so I think meeting him that first time was really a moment of like shocking, wow, how could it can be this way, this is possible, and I'll wrap it there.
Yeah. No, but there's just hearing you say that, I mean, I'm just right there. I mean, I felt that darshan. I mean, that love, not only that Ram Dass had for you, but that you had for Ram Dass. And I got to feel that in this moment. And um, that's one of the things that I think about in terms of when we think about lineage or we think about satsang and this idea of wanting to honor these things. It can feel kind of dry sometimes on the outside, but when you're in it, you realize that lineage is just a transmission of love over time. And you honoring Ram Dass in that moment, and then me being a part of your satsang, right? This horizontal movement of love, right? In this moment, that love gets to be shared and spread. And I just think that that's really sweet. Yeah. You know that I was there actually. I was out gardening when you first met him, but I remember coming inside and I remember seeing you at the end, and I remember what your face looked like. I mean, you looked like a young boy, like in love, like just like totally doe-eyed and just, and I remember Bodhi kind of like having to like pull you away a little bit. So I was there at the end of that moment. So I remember that. What about anyone else? Either Pavan or Hari, whoever feels inspired.
Yeah, I just want to jump on because I think like KP saying that it really, you know, I think there are so many fun stories that we all have, but for me, the most amazing part of Ram Dass being in my life is the fact that it happened at all. And, you know, and it's just like, you know, like you listen the first time and you hear what you hear, and then over time, you know, those things shift. And yeah, you get to see like what that love is that they were talking about, and that it extends beyond word. And that it's not even something like, you know, us like meeting Ram Dass or like caring for him. You know, it's beautiful, and it's so non-ascendable to be able to touch that to yourself. And I think that's my favorite thing with meeting Ram Dass, is knowing that every single person is capable of being able to feel that kind of love, and that it's available to be felt. You know?
Yeah, I was just telling Mangala earlier, who she's behind the scenes right now, right, managing this live stream for Love Serve Remember, and we were talking about Ram Dass, and I said I learned more from being around him than any book. As you guys know, I read I'm reading books like every day. I'm like constantly studying things, and I feel like it's just a way for my mind to try and catch up on, you know, whatever it was that I got from Ram Dass. Yeah, that's incredible. And yeah, and you're right, Hadi, like that sense that, you know, Ram Dass never pretended to be anything other than human. And all of us, we were at the house with him as caregivers, like we definitely, more than I think a lot of people, saw him as human. And the fact that that love radiated so strongly through that humanity, I mean, that was my biggest lesson, is that, yeah, that this is real for me too, that this is actually our birthright, that this love, it's who we are, and that there's a path, and that we can take that path, and it's actually worthwhile. And because of all of Ram Dass's work and his practice of surrender, I mean, we got to drink that fruit. And no, I'm always going to be forever grateful for that. Well, Bhavin, I'm going to turn it to you. We just have a couple minutes. What are any kind of closing thoughts that you might have to just share before we turn it over to Nina?
Well, once again, I'll express the gratitude for us being here. Thank you so much to Mangala, to JR, to Raghu, to Rachel, to Kelly, to the whole team. I love Serve Remember for everything that you do. It's really incredible. Thank you, Sitaram, for hosting this event. Wish you could be here singing with us, but thank you for being present with us. And thank you to all of you for joining us today. We've talked so much about satsang, but this path that we're on, as Ram Dass said, we're all walking each other home. So we're all here together and supporting each other. So thank you everyone for joining. And just as a last, we'd love to connect. So you can visit us at kripa.guru and hanumanmaui.org. And I encourage you to sign up for our newsletters, link with us on social media. We have a very exciting Hanuman Chalisa album releasing on Ram Dass's birthday, which is April 6th. And we have Krishna Das and Nina and Jayutal and tons of incredible Kirtanwalas. So hope you can check that out on Ram Dass's birthday, and look forward to connecting with you when time allows. So thank you again to everyone for being here, and thank you to Love Serve Remember Foundation. All love and namaste.
Cool. Yeah, love you guys. I think you guys can go ahead and disconnect from the call.
See you, everybody. Thank you for spending your time with us. We love you.
Thanks.
So what's going to happen now is we're going to do a little pause for, it'll be 2 minutes or less. It'll be a little intermission. And then after that, I will introduce Nina, and then we'll get to hear her and her family and Mark Gorman and them and their Kirtan set. So stay tuned. Hi again. I'm really excited. It's actually a really high honor to be able to introduce our next artist and Kirtan leader. Not only for myself, but I believe I speak on behalf of all of Kripa. We all find Nina to be extremely inspiring, and we definitely look to her as a source of wisdom and as an elder on this path. I will also say she has some of the best melodies, and she sings with really sincere devotion. She's going to be joined by a group of her family and friends, which she'll introduce, as well as Mark Gorman on bass. And for anyone who doesn't know, he is the best Kirtan bass player probably on the planet. He's played with everyone, Krishna and Nina and Jaital, and you know that when Mark is there, it's going to be a good Kirtan, and that you'll probably want to dance. So Nina Rao, she first learned traditional bhajans from her grandfather in a village in South India when she was 9 years old. Those chants quietly stayed with her until she rediscovered chanting with Krishnadas in New York in 1996. For many years, Nina has been Krishnadas's business manager, and she's also accompanied him musically on the road, and she's an incredible kartal player. She's also an incredible Kirtan leader in her own right, and she has released multiple albums, including Antaryami, the Knower of All Hearts, as well as her more recent Anubhav. And she leads regular Kirtan workshops and retreats in her hometown in Brooklyn, New York, as well as around the whole world. If you want more information about her, you can visit ninaraochant.com. She's also the chairwoman of SavingWildTigers.org, which supports conservation of wild tigers and all species in their natural habitat in India. And that's something that she requested that she wants to be sure that we talk about in the Q&A at the end. And I'll just leave you with this quote from her. She says, "What's very important to me on this earthly plane is to not only be good to each other, but also remember and honor our connection to nature, our home, and our temple." So without further ado, it's my proud honor to introduce you to Nina Rao.
Welcome everyone to the Soul Land Music Series. We're really happy to be with you today. I have my whole clan here sharing in the music. This is Uma, my daughter, Devdas, Uma's father, Keshri, Devdas's partner, Brad Stoller, my guy, and my sister Sarina. So we're going to sing a few devotional chants for you today. The first one is called Bhumi Devi. And Bhumi Devi means Mother Earth. Bhumi means earth and includes basically all of nature. Devi means goddess. So this is an invocation to our great mother that is the earth within which we live and of which we are a part. Sarvamangalamangalye Shive Sarvarth Sadhike Sharanye Trayambike Gauri Narayani Namostute Narayani Namostute
Shri Ma
Shri Ma Jai Ma Jagatambe Janani Shri Ma Jai Ma Jagatambe Janani Shri Ma Jaya Ma Bhumi Devi Shri Ma Jaya Ma Bhumi Devi Shri Ma Jaya Ma Jai Jai Ma Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma Oh Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma 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 Shri Ma Jaya Ma Jai Jai Ma Shri Ma Jaya Ma Jai Jai Ma Shri Ma Jaya Ma Jai Jai Ma Ma Jaya Ma Jai Jai Ma I had the good fortune of meeting Ram Das through Krishna Das, and it was soon after he had had the stroke and was giving his first public performance in New York. It was actually also the first event that I planned for Krishna Das, and he basically said, we're bringing Ram Das to New York, so can you organize this? And since then, that's what I've been doing with Krishna Das, as many of you know. And I've also had the good fortune of being with Ram Das every year, almost at least once a year for the last maybe 12, 13 years. I'm not even sure. But since they started the retreats in Maui. And I gave him my first CD, Antaryami, on which there is a track called Vinayaka Always. And Vinayaka is a chant to Ganesh. It is a bhajan that my grandfather taught us, my sisters and I, when we were young. And so if you hear my CD, you'll hear there's a little bit of a recording of my grandfather with us singing with him as children. And then it goes into all of us singing together in the current day. And it was Ram Das's favorite on the CD. They were listening to it in the car. So I'd like to sing that for you today, along with the family. Ramdas is likely one of the most quotable spiritual guides and teachers that I know. He found a way of explaining complex psychological, emotional, and spiritual issues in a way that we could all understand. One of the most memorable things that he said that I remember all the time, he talks about being here now, as we know, and he also talks about a moment. Ramdas said, "A moment is eternal. A moment is not in time. A moment is not in space. Yet, when we dive into the moment, there is Maharaji, or presence, or the divine." Chanting these sacred names, as we've been singing, is a way to dive into the moment. Maharaji had in his temples in India the Kirtanwalas singing Mahamantra, the great mantra as it's called, although they're all great, all the time. When we went there were Kirtanwalas who were singing for 10, 12 hours a day. So we're going to sing one version for you of the many millions that there are. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Shri 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 Neem Karori Sant Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri 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 Siddhi Mata Ji Ki Jai. Sabha Sanatan Dharma Ki Jai. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Such a pleasure to chant with you. Jai Sitaram. Welcome.
Hi, everyone, again. We're back, and I'm here with Nina Rao and Mark Gorman. Hi.
How are you doing,
Around us.
around us?
I'm good. Yeah, it's really good to be here with you both. Why don't we start off? Where are you right now, both of you?
You go, Mr. Gorman, Mr. Beat Bass.
I am at home in Los Angeles.
And me, the set that everybody just saw was actually filmed in my living room in Brooklyn a few days ago. And then I promptly got on a plane. And I'm actually in Los Angeles in my friend Lalita's house, in her beautiful living room with this beautiful altar for us. Yeah.
So that's one of the things with the pandemic is that you guys are actually both right now close to each other, but you're still having to zoom in from your different homes.
We're social distancing by about 3 miles or so.
Is it only 3 miles?
Maybe 4.
Okay, 4. All right, fine. Well, it's going to be different soon enough.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a good lead way into, I imagine, Nina, part of the reason you wanted Mark to be a part of it was because of his incredible bass playing, but I also just know you guys have played together for a really long time. How long have you guys known each other, and how long have you had to be apart with this pandemic?
Honestly, Mark, I don't even remember when I met you. Do you?
I think it was 2005.
Really? Where? Here in LA?
I think it was at the Wadsworth Theater in Brentwood.
That's right. That was the first time. And we were with Krishna Das, right? He was singing, you were playing. That was the first. That's right. Because I remember I was so nervous to play kartals, and you turned around and you were like,
I said, who is this? Who is this behind me rocking it?
And then I thought, oh, okay, I can fit into this band. Right. And I don't know. I have not seen Mark, I think, since we were with Ramdas in Maui, right? In December 2019. That's the last time I saw Mark.
Yep.
In person.
Yep.
Because you were both there at his last December retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. And I really wanted Mark to be part of this event. And so, he agreed to play bass because all these years we've been together with Krishna Das, and Mark has always supported me and played with me. And when I made my first album, I had, no idea that I would ever have a bass player playing with me. Like, that just seemed completely, drum and maybe kartals. And then to have this fantastic foundation to the chanting, and he came up with all these amazing grooves. And so, and also I love him and I love his family, and we really miss being with each other, So this was our way to kind of come together and be together. Yeah.
Yeah. And Mark, I've always wanted to ask you this question because I've seen you at so many different kirtans. I've seen you with Krishna Das, and I've seen you with Nina, but I've never actually heard you talk about the practice. And I don't even know. Outside of kirtan, for all I know, you could be a strictly death metal guy. I have no idea. But I imagine that there's something that really draws you to it. And so I'm just curious, from your perspective, if you could talk a little about that. And also, how is it different in terms of accompanying kirtan versus maybe accompanying other forms of music?
Great question. I'm not a death metal guy. But I am a rock band person from way back. Always was in original rock bands, and I'm originally from Philadelphia, and I moved to Los Angeles in about 2002, and I guess everybody has a windy road that leads them to wherever they end up. And I used to say it was an accident that I ended up doing this stuff. Really, I was just looking for a gig, to be honest. And but I guess I found myself really falling in love with this kind of music and the feeling that I would get playing it. And you asked, is there a difference really between this playing this kind of music and being in a rock band? And there are a lot of similarities, but I think the biggest difference that I find is that everybody in the room is part of the band, really. We're up there playing the music, but the responders or the audience, they're doing the response, and so you're really one big band, and that's a huge difference. The power that the energy that you feel when with all people singing together, you just it's a whole other thing. So I guess that's kind of the answer.
Yeah.
And I'm not standing, I'm sitting on the floor. That's a big difference.
You're good at sitting cross-legged for 3 hours. I'm always impressed.
It's the getting up that's hard.
Oh, right.
Afterwards.
I'm always impressed by how long you can like authentically smile for at a kirtan. You always have a smile on your
Well,
face.
that's the thing. People come to these events and it's not so much to come see the band, although I think to a certain degree that is the case. But people come to feel good. People come to find themselves. People come to sing. People come to be with other people. And so there's a real positive energy that's in the room, and it's contagious. You feel that, and not many fights like I used to see often in my rock band days.
Sure. And Nina, I guess I'm curious to hear from you. You talked about like at the beginning playing kartals with Krishnas and being nervous. And I've heard you say before that you're not really a musician, which always feels like a very humble statement from you. But I just this sense of, I've always had this sense that for you, like this place that you're at now where you're leading kirtan, it's almost like something that happened to you. I mean, it's like really just grown out of your own authentic practice. And I'm just curious if you could kind of talk about a little bit of that evolution for you.
It's funny you're asking this question because I was actually saying to Lalita earlier today when I was getting ready with the lights and everything, is how did I even get here? Like, it still surprises me. And, but and I am not a musician in the sense that, I haven't been trained in any kind of music. I certainly never thought that I would ever lead any kind of music. I was just happy to sing in my choir, in my, as a kid. And it did just happen to me. And, I followed the lead that was given to me, in the sense that chanting really became my spiritual practice. After, trying yoga and meditating and things, it's when I reconnected with chanting through Krishna Das is when I realized, like, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to spend my time doing. I love the feeling of community. As Mark is talking about, when everybody comes together with this intention of doing something that is beneficial to them. Whether they may think about it that way or not necessarily, we don't know, or just to have a sense of feeling of connection. And the more I chanted, the more I wanted to chant. And that continues, to this day. My feeling about like leading the chanting, it sort of happened by accident in the sense that we were singing with Krishna Das a lot in the early days when he sang weekly at Jivamukti. And then he started getting invited to sing outside of New York. So he wasn't always there. And so those of us who had gotten close in that satsang decided that, okay, well, we have to sing. This is what we do. So we would have satsang at my house. People would come over and, we would sing once a week and have chai and make dal. And, it kind of grew organically from there. And certainly, like, Krishna Prem was talking about the Hanuman Chalisa when he had that experience of chanting it in Hawaii. When I first heard Krishnadas chanting the Hanuman Chalisa on his first album, I had actually never heard it before, even though I'm from India. It's not really a practice that originated or was well practiced in south of India. It's different now, but in those days that wasn't the case. So I'd heard it for the first time. And it really resonated with me, so much so that I wanted to learn it. It just kind of came to me. And the first time I went to India, Siddhima asked us to chant it, outside of Maharaji's temple as a practice every day. And so it became so much a core part of my practice that I was chanting it all the time. And then I realized in a group, how many people wanted to chant it too. And so then we did the 108 on January 1st. And it just became the thing that I did. And, it was a great shock to me when Krishna Das asked me to sing on Flow of Grace. And he really did have to trick me into singing it because I was so nervous about the whole thing. So, which he did, and the story is in the book. So yeah, but then, gradually over time, by singing with the satsang at home, and it just evolved into what it is, which is what it is.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, that sense comes through, at least for me, just the sense that you're there and there's a stage and there's all these musicians around, but at the core of it, I mean, you're really just doing your practice. And and I just, it's incredible. Yeah, actually, that this whole thing can kind of build around that.
Well, these guys are all so talented. Like, I don't even know how to explain what chords I'm singing. And Mark just figures everything out. And same with the other musicians who play with me. They just create the foundation and the space melodically and rhythmically, and they're just there and so present. So it adds so much. It's so helpful for me. Actually, I love it to play with these guys.
Yeah.
The feeling's mutual.
And I guess I'm also curious because you guys have played together for a long time. You've also played together for a long time at Maui on those retreats with Ram Dass. And like Nina, you talked about first meeting Ram Dass right after the stroke. And I'm just thinking about just this long arc of both of your relationship with him. And I'm just curious, how that changed for either of you over the years. And what you can say about that.
Mark, why don't you go?
Well, it's an amazing thing. Just to be with everybody in the most beautiful setting anywhere, and to be playing with great people, and I guess over time we've just gotten closer and closer, and I don't even have to think anymore. I'm playing. I'm just feeling it, and Nina's right next to me. She's my rock. And as time has gone on, it's just gotten deeper and deeper.
When I met Ram Dass, my memory of that very first event that he did at St. John the Divine, he wasn't speaking very much because of the aphasia, And I had just read Be Here Now. I didn't know much about Ram Dass, but I did read about him when I was asked to plan this event. And there was so much said in this book that was incredible to me, that he was able to take all these Eastern philosophies and principles that I had seen in the Indian practice and put it in this format that was so accessible to everybody, including myself. This is what I love about practicing with Ram Dass and Krishna Das and all the Westerners who went back to India and brought back these teachings. And over time, do you remember when we, at the, I think it was the memorial, maybe Sita Ram Das, you were there for Ram Dass's 1 year anniversary. Was that where we were together? I can't remember. I don't remember. We did so many online things, but somebody asked me, you know, what is your, if there was one thing you could say about Ram Dass, like what would that be as a tribute? And for me, every experience I've ever had with Ram Dass over the years in Maui, up until the time he passed, and even now after he's left the body, is that how much was transmitted in his silence. Even after he started speaking a lot more, you know, and he progressively improved. It's a miracle. And still, everything that I felt came through in the silence. And now reading his book, which everybody should read and listen to if you can, Being Ram Dass, I feel like those blessings have been showered again upon us, you know, as we're listening. It's just incredibly beautiful too. And I feel so happy that I had the opportunity to be in that space. So the arc has not been much of an arc other than, you know, we've all got a few more gray hairs. But it's been like a solid through line of being able to count on the depth of his faith and confidence in Maharaji that came through in his teachings and his silence for me. That's how it's been.
That's beautiful. We do have a couple audience questions, but first I want to make sure that I ask you about some of the activism work you're involved in. You know, we were talking before about just Ram Dass's love of nature, and you also have this great love of nature. And for you, it's really tied into a desire to really care for it in a real world way. And so I'm just curious, what you could kind of speak to that.
Well, I won't say very much. I mean, we're all very aware of the global climate situation that we're in. And before those discussions were happening in a mainstream kind of way, I did spend a lot of time in the African bush and also in the jungles of India, because this is what I did for a living. I took people on wildlife trips to see wildlife. And it became very clear to me that here was this treasure of nature that in no way could we even get close to replicating. And the wisdom that's held in nature is untapped to a large degree. And if we don't preserve it, we're going to be sorry for our own sake, you know, never even mind for the sake of all other beings, but just even for us. And one of the cornerstones in the work towards fighting global climate change is the preservation of nature, like the very first step. You know, it's going to be very hard for us to change our consumer demands. It's going to be very hard for us to change our manufacturing means. We can do it, but it's not going to be easy. But the easiest thing to do, the simplest, most straightforward way, is to preserve what we have. You know, hands down, preserve what we had. And so my little corner of the world is saving wild tigers. And by talking about the tiger as the species that we want to save, we're saving tigers not in cages in Texas, but tigers in the wild, in their natural habitat. So the entire ecosystem is preserved. And I say that for every ecosystem around the world, and especially in our country here, where we already have a great starting point, you know. So just connecting with nature is, I think, important for us, for our own spiritual advancement. And can I read you a little bit from Being Ram Dass that Ram Dass says about nature?
Please.
Okay. I just picked out a little couple of things. So he says, on Maui, I don't feel the pull to return to India. There's something of India here on this sacred island. I sense oneness in the wind, the birds, the sky, the waves. Floating on the ocean swell, I begin to dissolve into the oneness with nature, with Maharaji. The clouds, the ocean, the trees, the wind, as I sit looking out at the Pacific, these are my companions. The birds in the treetops, the rains of Maui, how quiet nature is most of the time. The conversations I have with these friends are inner and spiritual. I feel the Hawaiian spirits envelop me. We share this Middle Earth paradise. All these friends, sometimes they are the one, fashioned from love.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I will give the same plug. The book is incredible. I imagine Mangala has dropped a link to it in the comments. But I'll also say that Ramesh Das does an incredible job reading it for anyone that prefers Audible.
100%. That's how I listened to it
Yeah.
too. My first Audible book that I've ever read, heard, listened, and to hear him, he's so connected with the narrative and he's lived through so much of this.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful to hear, and I really recommend. Like you said, yeah, if you can actually listen, it's also very beautiful. And speaking of books, Sita Ram Das, since we didn't get to hear you sing, we know that you have just put out a book of poems. Could you tell us the name of the book? Because I don't think you mentioned it before.
I did mention it earlier, but yeah, it is called From and For God. And it's a book of poetry and also prose. And it's really just the first writings in it were the things I wrote when I was on Maui with Ram Dass. And then after leaving the house, it's a lot of me just kind of wrestling with Ram Dass's teachings and how does it apply to this world. And yeah, so that's the book.
Do you want to read us a couple of lines of something special? I'm sure it's all special, but whatever's coming to your mind.
Yes, I'm also looking at the time. I was told we can go a few minutes over. So what I will do is I will read one short poem, and then I do have one audience question that I want to ask you because it just involves someone trying to relieve their own suffering, and I think that it would be nice to hear what your response is. So I will read this one. This is actually what I wrote when I went back to Maui after Ram Dass had left his body, and there was the memorial, and me and the other caregivers got to be there. And this was kind of inspired from just that milieu of just being there with everyone. And it is called Sita Ram. The way Si stretches the lips to a smile, how Ta drops the jaw and the eyebrows raise in delight. We often think of ecstasy as the pinnacle of pleasure, but it's really a fierce melt into horror and bliss. And that's just one moment in the river of sound, Ra. Its alluring current swallows and dissolves. The merciful nature is revealed when despair dawns at the river's end, and aching hearts softened by a low, soothing rumble. Maharaji gave me faith, unveiled unyielding grace. Ram Das opened the bottomless well of the human heart, and Sita Ram provides the perfect form to contain it all. Faith, grace, and love. A sonic murti formed by my own lips, by whose feet I fall with the breast's rising tide. Sita Ram, sometimes I think you are a practice, but in truth, you're the reward.
Sita Ram.
Okay, so we will close with one final question. This is from someone who asks, how can you release negativity out of your body, mind, after being around negative people?
I think it's important to recognize that negativity exists not only around us, but also within us. And one of the things that I like to read stories of saints. And one of the very important, beautiful saint, her name was Sri Sharada Devi. And she was Sri Ramakrishna's wife and was considered a saint herself later on. And very simple thing that she said was that she said, don't look around to blame others for anything that you might be feeling. Think about what's your part in it. So if you are feeling that there's negativity around you, obviously, and it's too much, try to remove yourself from the situation, as best as you can. But a lot of the time that the negativities that we feel are arising from within ourselves as a reaction to what's happening around. So how can we open ourselves in such a way that we can hold it all with a sense of compassion and understanding, or even just acceptance? It doesn't have to, it's very hard to invoke loving feelings when you're feeling some kind of negativity coming from someone else. But why not just let it be and see what that happens when you can switch just that little thing in your mind, where you might not be reacting to what's going on behind you, around you in such a way. And the truth is that it's very hard to will that to happen on call, just like that. But the more we do practices, the more that space will become more quickly and easily accessible. I really do feel that over time, whatever practice that we might be doing, but all these practices are meant to create that opening in ourselves. Because we live in this world, and you read any of the sacred texts, it's full of balancing the light with the dark, or positive with the negativities. That's our journey. This is our path.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to learn more about the practice of chanting, and specifically maybe wants to incorporate some Nina Rao music into their practice, how can they learn more about you?
Well, it's all there on my website, ninaraochant.com. Thank you for asking.
Yep. And then I was instructed to mention, because I didn't mention earlier, that you are also hosting several of the guest podcasts on the Be Here Now network. So that's another way that people, if they have been inspired or learned from anything that you've said, that they can get more of that. Is there anything else that either you or Mark want to say before you guys take off for the night?
Mark?
Well, I want to thank you, Sitaram Das, and also all of Love Serve Remember for really changing my life. And so in many ways. And I guess that's really all I wanted to say.
I'll just close. I want to just say that hearing you, Sitaram Das, with the guys in Maui was really so inspiring for me to hear you and to feel you and how the practice has come through you. It's really heartening to see that. And I hope that you are able to share more and more of what you are doing. Because I'm also very inspired by the younger generation. I see my daughter and the kids, and now Mark's kids are going to grow up, and they live in a different space, I feel, than I did when I was younger.
For sure.
And also, right?
Yes.
And then
Absolutely.
seeing all of you, like Mangala, JR, Kelly, Rachel, all these wonderful people who are working at Love Serve Remember, and including many others. I want to thank Raghu for the work that he's done to really recognize in everyone what they're capable of and how they can contribute in sharing these teachings. And that really has come from him and the incredible board also of Love, Serve, and Remember. So thank you so much for having us. It's really an honor and a pleasure and a joy. And Sitaram.
Jai Sitaram. Thank you both. I'll have you both sign off and then I can make the closing announcements. But thank you again. I mean, this is truly an honor for me to be able to just be in this space with you both, because I've definitely admired you both from afar many times in many kirtans. And so, yeah, really.
Hopefully soon we'll be together.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, Mark.
Bye, Neen.
Okay. So just a couple of closing announcements for you all. One, just to remind you that the replays of this will be available. So if you found this especially inspiring, you can check back in with it. And we also have some other great performances happening in the Soul Land Music Series. So we will be back in 2 weeks with Lundrell and Jetpack Brandon on Friday, April 16th. You can learn more about the whole series and check out the full lineup and as well as the replays at ramdas.org/music. A couple other announcements. This Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, the Ramdas Fellowship will be hosting a free live stream event with John Lockley. They will be discussing devotion and the healing of hungry ghosts. You can catch that stream on the same channel that you're tuning into tonight. So wherever you're watching this right now, you'll be able to watch that. And if you'd like to learn more about the Ramdas Fellowship and connect with satsang near you, you can visit ramdas.org/fellowship. And I would really recommend that. You know, I think one of the things that came through strongly tonight is just this sense that one of the ways that the spiritual path deepens for us is through community, like true spiritual community and through friendship, you know, on the spiritual path. And these fellowships are set up so that if you're inspired by these teachings, you're inspired by Ram Dass, you're inspired by Neem Karoli Baba, but you don't know that many people around you that might be connected, it's set up to help you get connected to other people on this path so that you can continue to grow with others in community. It's really an incredible thing. You know, locally where I'm at, we have our own Ram Dass Fellowship here in Humboldt County where I live. And it's all over, not just the United States, but the whole world. And lastly, you can visit ramdas.org/events to stay up to date on all the virtual offerings and Love, Serve, Remember Foundation that they've scheduled. And lastly, I want to say that the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation is a nonprofit, and they work really hard to make these teachings widely available to everyone. You know, through these live streams, through the podcast, through just all this incredible stuff that they're doing. You know, even when Ram Dass was living in with those December retreats, they would live stream them all so that anyone could participate. And of course, all of that takes resources. And so if you are inspired and you have a little bit of time right now, and if you just want to go and make a donation, that's what continues to make these teachings accessible for others. And so with that, I just truly want to thank you all for taking the time to hang out with me tonight. And I've just been really thrilled to be here. And so, yeah, all my love to you and Jai Siya Ram.